Now, with that, I'm going to turn it over to today's presenter. Her name, as you heard, was Sarah Troyer, is Sarah Troyer, still Sarah Troyer. It's going to be Sarah Troyer for a long time. And she has been in the industry about 7.5 years. Now, when you think about our industry, about a third of the people make it a year, another third make it less than 3 years. 87% of the people who get a real estate license are gone in 5 years. So if you're here after 5 years, you buck the trend. More importantly, Sarah has consistently grown her business and, more importantly, her family and her life during her time in real estate. And we are thrilled to have her today talking about winning the seller. As someone who started out, and Sarah is a part of one of our top teams here at Keller Williams Greater Metropolitan, the Golden Group. And she started in that organization and has grown a very big and promising business inside of that organization and will continue to do so, moving from, as I understand it, and as the data tells me, majority buyers to a lot of sellers. And that's a transition that, God, wouldn't everybody love to have more listings, even in this horrendously slow market where listings sit for 45 to 60 days instead of 4 to 6 days? Just a reminder for everyone, we are still in a seller's market. We are trending towards a balanced market, but a home selling in the market in 60 days is still quite fast. And if you go back 10 years, there were billboards around Cleveland that said, I can sell your house in 100 days or I'll buy it. Like 100 days is a lifetime now, but 60 is pretty doable. But Sarah, I'm going to turn it over to you. I believe, let me make sure you have share screen potential.
I
And
do.
we're going to give you the sticks and let you lead the crew. Guys, your full and undivided attention to our presenter for today for the final session of Ignite, bringing it home with the most important thing in the real estate business, a listing. Take it away,
Yay.
Sarah.
Thank you. I think your little introduction is going to leave me smiling all day. It was very nice and thoughtful, and I appreciate it. Love
I
being
was
a
up, I was up very late last night preparing it.
scribing by candlelight, I'm sure. So, yes, thank you very much. Okay, so I am Sarah Troyer, like Mike said. I'm with the Golden Group. I've been an agent for 7.5 years. So I am going to kick off our presentation here with saying I do a lot better in person. And I didn't want anyone to be too comfortable because what's the number one thing about success in being a realtor? About conversations. They should be what? Jamie, do you know? Can't hear you.
Shoot, sorry, I had to take myself off of mute. Conversations. They should be appropriate and in person.
And uncomfortable. You're Eddie Golden, my team leader. He says the number of uncomfortable conversations you have in real estate will determine your success. So
Yep.
I'm gonna start here. Hang on, just getting my screen shared there, making sure I share the right stuff. Chrome tab. Okay. Okay, here we are. So the first thing I want everyone to do here is take a minute, find one item in your home or office space that represents your business and bring it back here. You have 2 or 3 minutes. We're going to talk about it. It cannot be your phone. It cannot be your computer. It cannot be your business card. I want you to just explore your space. You're exempt if you're driving. So like while everyone's looking for their item, Jordan, you can talk to me because I see you driving. So,
Hello.
hi, where are you going today?
I'm off to an appointment, not real estate related, but
Okay.
I wish.
Okay. Have you had anything uncomfortable happen to you in the last few days? Uncomfortable conversations?
Uh, yeah. Well, I mean, negotiating things always makes me uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
I need to feel better, more confident about that.
I
But
think that no matter how many negotiations you have, you start like there's some level of discomfort because you want what you want and other people want what they want. So What any ahas or any takeaways from your most recent uncomfortable encounter while everyone's looking for their items?
Just that, like, really, I don't have to be. There's always a way to, like, come to a resolution 9 times out of 10, even when you think that there's not going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. You're able to, if you're working with somebody that is you can work with, that it's possible to navigate and make everyone happy, a win-win
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah, win-win or no deal, right?
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head too with as long as the person you're working with can be reasonable, because sometimes you have somebody on the other end who's just not reasonable, and that is difficult because you want your client to succeed. You want to succeed, and you're not understanding why they seemingly don't have that same mentality. It's like throwing their weight around, or we're doing it my way or the highway, and that doesn't really benefit anybody. So anyway,
this was my biggest negotiation deal yet, so I learned a lot.
Yay. Well, that's the thing too, is every sale, I think, is an opportunity to learn something new. You won't even know or expect the new thing you're going to learn, but it's always something you're like, oh, I wish I would have known that. But now that I do know that, I'm not going to forget that, because it cost me money, or it cost me a sale, or it made my client upset. And I'm carrying that now because I carry what my clients feel, or whatever, however you look at it. So good. Well, I'm glad you've had uncomfortable conversations this week. Okay. Is anybody back with an item that they want to share or talk about? I'm going to not move on from this until the answer is yes. So show me, tell me anything.
I can go.
Okay.
Mine is connected to the wall, so I didn't bring it toward me. It is my handy dandy whiteboard. And this kind of just represents my brain. I have categories on this for Golden Group related work, personal work, and like family work that needs to get done every day. So I try to think in terms of prioritizing within those three kind of categories for my success each day.
Yeah, I love that. And the one thing that I've started implementing in my business probably the last year or two is along those lines, is about hours that I'll work. So I categorize my day as sometimes, always, and never. So like, I have kids that are in school, and I have to be available for picking them up or getting them to activities. So usually from like 3 to 5 are my never hours, because I'm getting my kids home. I'm in another mode, in another realm of what I'm working on. And that's my family. So I love that. Who else? I saw Amanda, I saw you holding up a piece of paper of some sort. So do you want to tell us about that? You're muted, so I can't hear you.
It's a transaction flow sheet. It's from Guardian Title.
Okay. And what do you use that with every transaction, or what is that? How does that represent your business?
It's just something that helped me because I'm just starting.
Yeah. Oh, good. So when did you get licensed?
June.
Okay. Have you had many sales yet, or still trying to get off the ground, or what?
No, I've did inspections and I've did showings.
Okay, cool. So yeah, the transaction flow sheet is a good one. I know that once you can sit in a classroom in a training and hear people talk and present about so many things, and then when it comes time to actually do it, you're like, oh my God, what do I do? So something like that is definitely helpful when you're getting started. Thanks for sharing. Who else? Anyone else? I'll take one more.
Hi.
Hi,
Can you?
Deborah. Yeah.
Hi. Um, I just have something. I can't really show it to you, but it's up on my
Okay.
board, and it says, "Stop waiting for things to happen. Go out and make them happen."
Ooh,
So,
a little motivational. Yeah.
so it's something that always, I have in front of me all the time. I can see it from my computer, from my desk, and it's, just reminds me all the time that, I have to do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to do the work. So, is there anything you've done recently that either was new or different or uncomfortable in some way that resulted in business or like a great conversation that you had?
Yeah, well, I just recently in October, end of October, retired from my corporate job. So a lot of times, some of the things, the activities and things, it's just kind of hard to juggle all of them together, having a full-time job. So, and starting with Ignite and everything, again, I said, well, I'm going to really make an effort to, make the calls, do all of that kind of thing, and, reach out to my sphere. So I did actually get a couple of appointments last week. So, I was excited about that, being able to, get some appointments and get something going there. So I
That's
have,
awesome.
possibly, and we kind of focus more uh, on what we're talking about today, on on getting listings. So, that's one of the things that we're focusing on. And
And when you say we, are you on a team or you have a partner or
yeah,
you're just
yeah.
we as in the group today?
He is my husband Warren, and I have two sons that
Oh,
are
I see
also
Warren. Okay. There he is. All right.
and I have two sons we have two sons, and so we have a small family team. Our
Okay.
two sons are, they're full time, employed. However, it's still we all kind of work together.
Awesome. I love that.
Mhm.
Well, I'm going to share my item here. Thank you for sharing, everyone, which I had time to prepare because I obviously knew that I was going to ask this. So I have to do a delivery this afternoon, and it is a client who just had a baby. So I have a card and a book. So I go on Amazon and I buy like 4 or 5 of these books every year. And then I just have like a stack for when I have a client, a past client, a former client, a friend who I hope to become a client. And I drop off a card and a little book and I write in it. And it's, celebrating a milestone for people. And I think that you can't underestimate how those sort of things can impact your business. Whether it's, in your general sphere, you have lots of people who are having babies, or you have lots of people who are retiring, or, there's different avenues of life for everybody. But I think that number one, you're remembering something for them. Number two, you're acknowledging it. It just shows that you care, and they will be more mindful of maybe remembering you in the future if they're talking to somebody who wants to buy or sell a house and you're top of mind for doing those sort of little things. So I make it a point in my business to try and reach out in meaningful ways to people. So let's get started here with our topic for today. If anyone wants to share anything specifically about why are you here, what are you struggling with, what are you looking to be challenged by, anything coming to top of mind. Like I'm always generally curious about what spoke to you about coming to this training? Are you just, trying to check a box? Does it help you in some way? Is there something you're struggling with that you're looking more for guidance or support on? Because I want to try and address those topics today if we can. So does anybody have anything?
Actually, I do.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Oh, great, thank you. So I'm a new agent, and the reason for this class is just like to learn more. And actually, I found out in each and every class I attended lately at Keller Williams, if I feel like you always learn a thing or two, and they might be like little tips, but they're very important. And that's why I think I should be attending these classes, because I would always get something out of it.
Yeah, fully agree. How long have you been licensed?
Since I think May, June, something like that.
Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, anybody else have anything to add?
Sarah, you're on mute.
You're muted.
That's helpful to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I was just saying today, this is a kind of rough outline of our agenda. We're going to talk about how to identify A sellers and then going all the way through the listing appointment process, and then just some daily success systems to keep you on track and keep more business coming your way. So A sellers, that would be defined as an able, ready, and willing to do business in the next 14 days seller. So this is a great identification and criteria. Some things that I might ask myself, or through probing some questions with a seller, I'll try and find out, how do I know they're ready? How long is your, ask yourself, how long is your listing process? If somebody called you and said, I want to list my house as soon as possible, what would you tell them as a time frame? And just because they are ready now is now the right time. And what I mean by that, in some ways, somebody might be going through a divorce. Somebody might be just dealing with a death of a family member. And sometimes people act really high on emotions, but it's not always necessarily the best time or the most rational thought process. Example being, I had a client reach out to me and 2 days before Christmas and said, I need to sell my house. My husband left me, and just very word vomit. And I was like, okay, well, I'm really sorry. Let's figure out what we can do. Like, when do you want to meet? And she's like, let's meet today. Da, da, da. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't. Number one, I couldn't today. Number two, I knew that probably she was fueled on emotion and stress and maybe not ready to make a rational decision. So I was like, how about, we plan for later in the week, get through the holidays, blah, blah, whatever. So I checked back in with her, and it turned out there was a big misunderstanding and whatever. I don't know all the details. I don't need to know all the details, but you want to be ready and willing to jump when you need to jump, but also like looking at the big picture too. Like, would I turn down a listing if she was like, no, come over and put a sign in my yard? No, but I want to make sure that it's not something that's going to backfire, or I'm over promising and under delivering, and everyone's making decisions on the most rational plane possible. So some benefits of having seller listings and just being on the listing side. You're getting more marketing opportunities for yourself, for your business, first and foremost, there's a sign in the yard with your name on it. You can't get any more out in the open than that, right? You have more control over your time in the sense that, one of the big differences between working with buyers and working with sellers, which I will do both, is, with a buyer, your showings and all that, and it's eating up your time and your schedule. And with a listing, you kind of are in the driver's seat where, okay, you're in a scenario where, let's say it's pie in the sky and you have multiple offers. Great. You're, with your seller's assistance and permissions, you're setting a deadline. You are planning when offers are being reviewed. You are, telling people when decisions are going to be made. So there's a lot of benefits to that in working with your time. Volume, you're getting more volume from listings generally than you are from buyers' sales. And again, you're marketing the listing, so it's bringing you more business. Other than the sign in the yard, what are some other ways that people see as benefits to having listings or being in front of things in marketing? What are ways that you market when you have a listing? Anyone want to share anything?
Definitely more social media content and opportunities to communicate out to your database, whether it's, something that they want or just to stay top of mind if they're not in the market right now, that this is your sweet spot.
Yep. Great point. So like on our team, for every listing, whether it's mine or Jamie's or someone else on our team, we have an email campaign, and it'll go out and it'll come from me, and it'll say, new listing, and it'll have the details of the property. And even though it might not be my listing, it's our team's listing. So it's putting your name with listings and allowing people to recognize, oh, you do a lot of business. Oh, you're selling all these houses. And maybe it's not necessarily your volume, but you're representing it by marketing. So that's a great benefit too. If you use command, if you use email campaigns, getting your listings out there, or anything informational, you want to just appear as an expert. And this is an industry, and I don't know if Mike Rapasky's still here, and he might not like that I say this, so maybe it's good if he's not, that you just kind of fake it till you make it. And I think that if you're a new agent and you're not getting a lot of listings yet, you're not getting a lot of sales yet, you feel like you're having great conversations, but they're not leading to something, like that's all normal. That is all very normal. What's going to elevate you though is like attending these trainings, attending these team meetings. Mike saying at the beginning today of 87% of agents don't make it past 5 years. Like that's really something to say, that there's a lot of failure in this business. And I know the brokerage and everyone in it wants to see you be in that 87% and succeed. So, let's see what else we got here. So getting appointments, keys to converting your A sellers. So when you get a lead, just responding right away to inquiries. Whether it's you have a system of text, call, email, or whatever it is, you're responding, you're letting them know, hey, I'm here, I'm ready to work for you. What can I do to help you next? Getting, when you are getting those leads or those potential sellers, you're getting complete contact information, saving it to command, creating an opportunity. And I've highlighted here too, aside from setting the appointment and all those logisticals, determine their motivation to sell so you can speak to it. Anybody have any examples they want to share about a seller's motivation or something that you've been through? Or I'm happy to share, but I also like when other people talk. So what are some things that motivate people in the selling process?
I'm sorry, motivate who? The seller or the agent?
What's motivating the seller? You're determining the seller's motivation so you can speak to it. So if I'm the seller and I say to you, I want to sell as quickly as possible, what are the tools in your tool belt that you're going to pull out for me?
Well, actually, first of all, the reasons why, and the time, like what time, what's your expectation for the time that you think your house would sell. And actually, first of all, I would say that what's the seller's expectation from you as an agent?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. What are they expecting out of you
Yeah.
as an agent?
And I think sometimes you go into those situations where somebody either has never sold their home before, so they don't have any idea what to expect, or they've been in their home for 30 years. So they haven't bought or sold any property in a very long time and things have changed. So, um, as much as you want to know what their expectation is, I think it's also important that you kind of steer that ship and steer those conversations with, okay, you want to list as soon as possible? Great. Here are the things we need to do to get your house ready. I'm going to come over. We're going to look and see, do we need to, have any contractors come in? Do we need to do painting? Do we need to get a storage unit? Do we need to hire junk removal? So we can certainly do this as soon as possible, but I can't tell you until I see your property what as soon as possible means. Now, let's talk about getting your house on the market and pricing. That kind of spirals into other conversations. So, I think that when you're initially having these conversations, working a lead, just having casual, pre-appointment type language with them, you just say, okay, well, let's set an appointment so we can talk more about all of this, because it's a ball that can be unraveled. But also, if you do it too fast, or if you try and hit it all over the phone before you even sit down with them, it could cause them to be overwhelmed. So I think, finding out, is it, well, my neighbor's house sold for 500,000 and mine's nicer, so I know it's going to sell for 550, or, those things, like, take those comments. Yeah. Okay. Like, you got to kind of listen to them, and then, do your job by running comps and getting ready for the appointment and figuring out, do I have to, am I going to be supportive of what they're telling me, or do I have to figure out a way to soften this blow that your house isn't worth what you think it's worth? So, every situation, I think that dances a little bit differently, but you get the appointment. Thank you for bringing that up and sharing that, because I think it's helpful. Set an appointment for as soon as you can and send them a pre-listing packet if you have one. So, what sellers want most from their agents? Here's a nice little pie chart. You can see a majority of them are looking for pricing competitively, helping the sellers market their home to potential buyers, help to sell their home within a specific time frame, and help them find ways to fix up or sell it for more. So those are all kind of things that we just talked about. Like, you definitely want to have in your back pocket some ideas or thoughts or language on those things, because those are all things that sellers are looking for. That other 27% for other, I think a good chunk of that is 27% of sellers will use the same agent again. So perhaps they're not looking for something because they already know what to expect from that person. The biggest thing is questions versus objections. When a question is asked, answer it. And when an objection comes up, address it. I think the biggest disservice you can do to yourself and to your sellers is not handling an objection early enough in the process. Example of that is, specifically with pricing. I had a listing recently where, you know, the seller was pretty adamant their house was worth a certain dollar amount, and I knew that going into the appointment. So their house wasn't quite worth that amount. And, you know, I had to point out to them, listing at this price, your house is going to be the most expensive house that's ever sold in this neighborhood. You know, it is nice. It is, you know, well maintained, but I think you and I can both agree that maybe cosmetically, you know, like you have to figure out how to point out things about their house without insulting them. So, you know that okay, the carpets all haven't been replaced in the last 15 years, and this that you can kind of add up those things that helps them understand, like, yes, your house is great, yes, it's well maintained, but any buyer's going to come in and want to do X, Y, and Z. So I think that if you go into a listing appointment and go along with whatever they're saying just to make them happy, just to get the listing, then you're going to have problems further down the road, because you are then, going back on something you said, or you didn't speak up sooner. And this is the most expensive asset that a person has. It's the most expensive thing they're going to ever sell or buy, probably. So they're taking it very seriously. And you just have to be able to be very upfront, I think, and transparent. Does anyone have any examples of this in their own business, or something that went well, really well, or didn't go really well? Because I think that sharing successes, and failures are both important. So has anyone failed? Has anyone had a problem down the line because maybe they didn't answer, address an objection or handle something in hindsight? They're like, oh, I wish I would have done this or said this, that you can share?
I just want to share something quick about
Yeah.
those who want to sell their house on like by themselves, and they don't need an agent.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure they're not that informative about what they're doing, but they're very stubborn of getting any agent to help them out. So I want to hear your opinion about what you can do to make them change their mind.
So converting a for sale by owner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I will. Let's put a pin in that, and I'll
Okay.
get to that in 1 minute. So I want to hear from anyone else who maybe has, now that you've had a few more minutes to think about it, has a time when, you didn't handle an objection, or you did handle an objection well, a success or a failure, anything you can think of to share.
I've got one. It
All right.
was recent doozy, and I'm still living through it right now. So, still learning as I go. I had an investor who flipped a house. It looks great. And we were going to put it on the market this past fall. And I prepared comps, gave him the range of, like, here's what's selling in the area. Here's what I think the most valuable assets are that I'm going to be highlighting. He pushed back with some other comps, and I just said, like, look, we can start there. We're going to be starting higher than I think. I don't have a magic ball. I don't know who's going to come through here and what they're going to be willing to pay for this, but I kind of didn't hold firm, I think, on my pricing strategy as much as I wish I would have, because I let him push us higher to list, and then it sat and it sat, and then we got snow, and I ended up pulling it off the market. And now I'm waiting 45 days to put it back on the market again, because I should have listened to my gut, and I think it would have zoomed out and been sold right away had I really stuck to my guns with my comp review and with my pricing strategy. So that was a learning for me, because I've never really seen it go poorly. Like, everything sells in this market, everything goes so quickly, and now, like, I'm kind of living and learning through the, like, well, things are sitting longer, and going into winter I should have pressed harder to make sure that we were at a competitive price. So that didn't happen.
Yeah, in those situations, you definitely are kicking yourself. But in some situations, and maybe it's true with your seller, no matter what you say, people are stuck on a number and stuck on a price and stuck on a net, and you can try, but I've been in that boat too. And if I do have someone who's really pushing a number, I still might say to them, I am comfortable listing wherever you want, but in X amount of time, and that number is dependent on the market and factors and how quickly things are selling, in say in 10 days. If we don't have 10 showings in 10 days, we're going to have a conversation about dropping a price. When we drop the price, I typically suggest we look at a number somewhere between 3 and 5% of the current listing price. So they know going into it, yeah, we'll list it at this price, but it's not going to stay there, because if it's staying there for too long, it's not going to sell. And the longer it sits, the more it becomes a stigmatized property. And when that happens, people, instead of saying, I want to see this, are saying, what's wrong with this? So, Jamie, can you speak to the rationale of the taking it off the market for 45 days and what that does in case someone isn't sure?
Yes. So we made that decision because days on market, like you said, stigmatizes a property. And so when we pulled it off, if it stays off market and you withdraw it and then put it on 45 days later, the days on market listed in the MLS goes back to 1. So it looks like a brand new property. So perhaps people who weren't in the market when I put it on in the fall are in the market when I'm going to put it back on early February, and they'll see it as a brand new listing and not know. I mean, obviously, if you go in the history of the MLS, you'll see that it was on and off, and I can explain that. But in general, most people are just looking at days on market, ooh, brand new listing, rather than, oh, this listing's been on the market for 3 months now. What's wrong with it? Because there's nothing wrong with it. That's the thing. The price was wrong with it.
Yeah, I've been through that too. And I have a property that's now under contract, but we were getting to like the 80 to 90 days on market-ish, and have dropped price a couple times and such. And I'll have agents randomly calling me that say, oh, my buyer has been watching this for a while. And to me, I'm then thinking like, okay, maybe we're in more of a market where people are sitting and watching and waiting and looking rather than jumping and acting, which is what we have had, for anyone who's been an agent more than 2 or 3 years, that we had that for a long time. So anyone, I think, who's been licensed for probably 5 years or less doesn't know that market, because that's all you've known. It's on the market. We got to get in within a day or two. There's going to be deadlines. There's going to be lots of offers and blah, blah, blah. So now we're in an environment where, depending on the property, depending on the price and features and such, that people are just kind of looking and waiting and watching. And it's, excuse me, it's interesting. So, all right. Ahas. So before we go into the next section, or ahas, I know Helen had asked a little bit about converting for sale by owners. So that's a tough one, because I think you have to go back to the, why aren't they trusting an agent? Is it because they think they can do it on their own? Is it because they don't want to pay anybody? What are their whys or their reasons, and what are their objections to using you as an agent? So I had one for sale by owner that I converted a few years ago, and I can't quite remember the circumstances of how I got the appointment with her, but it was in my neighborhood. And I kind of got my foot in the door, I think, of more along the lines of like, hey, you might be able to get more than you think for your place. So when I met with her and I ran comps and I showed her stuff, she was surprised. She was, it's a condo, and she was going into the mindset of looking at 2 bedrooms comparing to 3 bedrooms, and that doesn't quite weigh the same, and things like that. So I think ultimately when I told her, what I thought she could get for her property, then she was a little more interested. And, I think you have to kind of, I don't want to say speak to anyone's fears, because that's not what I mean, but like, what are the things, like kind of telling them like things can go wrong. And at the end of the day, the last thing I would want for you in this big process is to get sued or do something that you shouldn't have done, or not know the moving parts and pieces of it. You only do this a couple times in your whole life. I do this every day. So, lean into your knowledge and things that you can provide. And I think a lot of it is commissions too, and explaining that, and explaining what you charge and what you do for what you charge. So there's a lot in there that I think is kind of case by case specific. So I would say that if you get to that scenario, kind of lean into all of our resources in the office, like there's scripts practice. You can reach out to agents. You can, ask for advice. I still will go on the agent page and say, hey, I'm dealing with this. Has anyone been through it? And what's your advice? Because the more knowledge you can get, better helps your own personal script. So I hope that helps a little bit of what you're asking.
Yeah. Actually, it's the most fear is the commission. Of course, they just want to save some money, and I can tell that. I just by talking to this person, I figured it out.
Yeah.
It's just like they wouldn't want to lose any money.
Yeah, and that's valid, and that's a great point. I think that is also a personal choice on your end. Like, how much am I willing to do this for? Like, how much of a break am I willing to give them? Am I going to stick firm on my commission and I'm getting paid this much no matter what? Or am I, do I have a relationship with this person, or I really want to help this person, and I'm willing to cut my commission to make it work.
I got my commission. I gave them such a good price, but that didn't work either. I think they were just like they don't want to pay anything.
Well, then in that situation, you just kind of have to move on and cut your losses, because you can't work for free either. You have a value, and you need to know what that value is and know what you are willing and not willing to do in your business. So, sometimes you're just not going to convert that person, but I would keep an eye on it. And if they list on Zillow or for sale by owner or something, check in with them, be like, hey, how's it going? And maybe they'll be like, oh, this is a lot. This is hard work. This is not what I expected. I really wish I had someone to do it for me. And if you just, are encouraging and stay checking in, but do it on an even playing field, maybe it might benefit you in the long run. You never know. You just never know. Maybe if it doesn't work for them, maybe they'll still remember you and refer you or something. So, Amanda, I'm looking at your chat. I was explained to an agent that charges 2% is more likely low self-confidence and more likely to pressure you into lowering the price of the home to make a sale. So do you mean, Amanda, you can feel free to jump in too. Like, if you're willing to reduce your commission, then you are looking for a quick sale, or what are you meaning by that?
I always explain like your fee, what you charge is like if you charge 3%, it's more like it's your self-confidence and what you're willing to work for. And someone that would charge 2% would be more likely to pressure you into lowering the price of your home to make a sale.
You're on mute.
Thank you. I think that can be true. I don't think that's always true. I think at the end of the day, it's what are you willing to work for? And how do you do it without looking desperate? Like I think that can be true in a case where an agent is just hungry for business and desperate and wants a sale. They're willing to cut corners because they just want something. I think there are circumstances where you can be comfortable with reducing your commission, whether it's a relationship or a genuine understanding or knowledge or concern or compassion for something somebody is going through. I mean, I don't know. I can't tell you where to cut and where not to cut your commission. But I think that can definitely be a true stigma. I don't think that has to be a true stigma though. So I think that you can reduce your commission if you want to. I always, go into it with, I'm working just as hard for, especially on the buying side, because that's all very gray, and what's the seller going to offer and what's the difference going to be for my buyer. I always just make sure to make a point to say, like, I'm working just as hard for you regardless, and that's the mindset that I think an agent that is good will have. So I hope that helps that stigma a little bit.
So with statistics from the National Association of Realtors, I'm looking even just on the site right now, like homes sold by owner. So FSBO sell for significantly less. The typical FSBO home sold for $380,000 versus $435,000 when using agent representation last year in 2024. That's a 15% higher sale price with an agent. So I'm charging you 3% commission, Mr. Seller, and the opportunity, the upside is much greater than what I'm charging.
Yeah, that's perfect. So is that the statistic then? It's 15%, like
Yeah,
a by owner gets 15% less typically when they're selling it on their own versus if they work with an agent.
Yeah, let me put it in the chat. Let me find the exact page right here and I'll add it to the chat so everybody has it.
Great, you're amazing. These are the kind of pieces of information that really you can drive home to people when you're having these conversations. Jamie's my go-to stat girl because she's so good at finding all these things. Pre-listing packet. Okay. Kelly, are we till 10:30 or till 11?
We can go to 11.
Okay. I'm not trying to, but I want to make sure I have a little bit of a buffer because 5 minutes isn't quite enough. So, okay.
Plenty of time. Yeah.
So this chart, does anybody know what this means? What the E to P stands for?
Entrepreneurial to purposeful.
Yay, entrepreneurial to purposeful model. Perfect. So from entrepreneurial to purposeful, from the Keller Williams Millionaire Real Estate model, it's reactive, like the entrepreneurial to purposeful. It's canceling out reactive hustle to converting it to intentional leadership. So this is the evolution of doing everything to doing the right things. And I think, Amanda, going back to your comment about the commission and, stigmas around reducing your commission. Yeah, somebody might be really eager to do that. So that's the doing everything. I'm doing everything I can to get business. So yeah, I'm going to upfront reduce my commission just to get this listing or just to, get this sale, to doing the right things. And the right things are such as, Jamie's statistic about converting a for sale by owner. You're coming equipped with data. You're coming equipped with, one of the things I use in my language is I've listed over 70 houses. And I think when you say stuff like that, once you gain experience, people are like, okay, you know what you're talking about. If you don't have the experience and you're just starting out, that's harder because that number is not going to be there for you. But you can certainly give nuggets of data and, prove through your listing presentation and what you're telling a seller you're going to do for them that you are doing the right things to get their house sold. So some things that kind of trigger this E to P shift, you're getting busy, you're overwhelmed, you're exhausted because you have too much business. you've hit an income ceiling. So there you might be like, I need a showing assistant. I need a transaction coordinator. You're trying to be more effective and efficient with the way you're operating. So time to stop grinding and start designing is like, I've worked really hard and my hard work has paid off, but now I'm overwhelmed or I'm, not sure how to take things to the next level. And that's where the E to P model really comes into play. So, pre-listing packets. Does anyone have a pre-listing packet that they use already as an individual agent, or maybe you're on a team that you like, or is there a part of it that you really like that you think drives home for your presentation when you meet with sellers? Okay. So one of the things that when I'm, scheduling an appointment for a listing is I'll ask the client, do you prefer paper documents or electronic documents? And that might tell me, even though I'll send them information ahead of time, do they want to have something to look at? And then I can be a little bit more formal with what I'm bringing to them. But otherwise, I have a website here for my pre-listing and buyer presentation. So here's my landing page, so to speak. And it takes us to my listing presentation here. Can everyone see that? Yes? No? You can't see it?
No, not yet. It's just your link tree.
Okay.
Oh, now I see it.
All right. So we have a virtual listing presentation here. And it goes through things about our team, things about me, my background, an overall kind of selling roadmap, which I think is similar maybe to, Amanda, what you have in that paper that you showed us at the beginning from the title company that it looked like. We go over here everything that we will do for seller listing services. We're going to have your house cleaned. We have a professional photography company that they come in and they will take pictures. They'll do, aerial and drone photography. We'll do a 3D walkthrough. We'll do a Facebook advertisements. We can do additional things as needed, like home repair, moving and storage, junk removal, lawn care, snow service. So, I kind of highlight that based on what people want or need. Everyone usually is over the moon about the cleaning part. Like, oh, you clean? That's great. And I will offer it either we can clean before we list and, make it easier for you. Or if that's not a problem and you like doing that, we can clean on the back end and clean after you move out. So you can just get your stuff out and clean. And we break it down here of all the estimated listing expenses. And these aren't expenses that the seller is paying for, but we're basically showing them the upfront value of the things that we are doing to get their house ready for the market. There's some links in here too with 3D walkthroughs and Matterports of some of the properties we've sold, 3D blueprints and renderings, stuff about moving recommendations. A statistic up here, 51% of buyers found their purchased home on the internet. 29% of buyers found their purchased home from a real estate agent. So emphasizing, your property is going to be featured on the MLS, but also all of these other websites, leaning into the data, reviews. And then we have in there the consumer guide and our exclusive right to sell agreement, a home details fact sheet that we do with every listing, and we put it on the MLS for agents. So it kind of avoids those extra tedious questions and phone calls that you might get when you have a listing that says, how old's the roof, and stuff. So you're not, it's stressful enough listing your house and selling it that you don't want to be necessarily bothering your client with the nuances of, asking the little questions. So we kind of try and get that out of the way up front. So that's just a sample of what we do for our team, for our listing presentations, and then you take it from there with where where you're feeling you need to lean into more, or the questions that they're asking or the comments that they're making. Prepping for the seller consultation. So yeah, send the listing packet, confirm the appointment, making sure all decision makers attend. Why is that an important element? Anybody but Jamie.
Okay, I will say something. My name's Jennifer.
Jennifer, hi.
Hi. So I'm new to Keller Williams, but I'm not new to real estate. But I had my only listing that never sold. That there were several. It was like the kids who were selling the property, and they didn't live in the same place. So I only got to talk to two of them, and then they wanted to relay all of the information to their siblings. And so the process took so much longer. And and it's almost like telephone. You don't do the game telephone. You just don't get the same information. You don't. And so down the line, when we would, I was on a team at the time, and my team lead, she got on the phone. We had a long conversation about pricing, because they could not understand that we cannot sell at this price. The price must lower. So after an hour or so long conversation, thinking that we made everything clear, they took everything to their siblings and talked about it, and then still decided, nope, we're going to leave the price right where it is. And then, of course, the house didn't sell. And then they go to another agent and sell it for the price that we were wanting them to sell at. So
Yeah.
it would have been so helpful if we had all been able to have everybody at the same time and make a decision at that moment, rather than letting them disperse the information. Didn't work well.
Yeah. That is a very difficult situation, for sure. And I think you have those where you either have like one decision maker for the group and everyone is agreeable and understands and accepting, or you have those situations where, like you went through, everyone doesn't quite agree. I went through something really similar recently too, where it was an estate, and the estate administrator was not in a great relationship with a couple of the beneficiaries of the estate, and those individuals also were not from the area. So as soon as we went on the market, they both called me separately and were like, I want to know why you're listing the house at the price you're listing it at when Zillow says it's worth so much more. So I had to then have, conversations, but not have conversations, because they weren't technically my clients. So I was like, hey, I can't talk to you about this specific property, but what I can tell you is Zillow is an algorithm. And, went into that whole spiel that Zillow, just because Zillow says what it's worth doesn't mean that it's true. I never met or encountered two people who have never set foot in Northeast Ohio who knew so much about the Northeast Ohio real estate market. So that was really fun. But at the end of the day, you're always going to have those objections. And yeah, Jennifer, I'm sure that was stressful and frustrating to go through that. So importance again of having all the decision makers there, or present.
I'd like to say something to that.
Yeah. What's up?
Hey, well, we had a couple of situations like that about having all the decision makers there, especially when it was same situation where she was saying, but the siblings lived out of town. But to make sure that everything worked right, we did conference calls to make sure every decision maker was there at the same time. So it wouldn't be one sibling saying something to the other sibling, so they all hear it at the same time, especially when you're talking with pricing, or maybe you have to reduce the price. But it is key. That is so key to have all the decision makers there. And if you could range that, like I said, we had some Atlanta, North Carolina, Cleveland. They were all over the place. But it is a big, big understanding to me to make sure that all the decision makers are,
yeah.
That's all.
That's great. And that's like a great benefit of the world we live in now, where you can do Zooms, or you can do Teams, or you can do a conference call. Like, there's not really a reason that everyone can't have a meeting of the minds, even if they can't all be together. So thanks for sharing that. Okay, so the actual listing appointment walkthrough. So, either, let me think. Usually, I'm like, how do I do this? Usually, I'll set my stuff down somewhere, probably in the kitchen or dining room or wherever we're going to meet. And I'll say, hey, can I set my stuff here while you show me around the property? Sure. So, if it's say it's a husband and wife couple and they're showing me stuff, and they're showing me a renovation of some sort, or, something that they've worked on, I'll always make a point to say, like, wow, this is great. Whose idea was this? Oh, it was mine, whoever says that. I'll be like, yeah, this was a great idea. This really added a lot of value. That is a way to kind of show them or emphasize to them, like, they did a good job. You're emphasizing a good decision they made. They took care of their home. They show pride in their home. Like, you have to, find ways to be complimentary and acknowledging things that they did, because they're taking pride in this. This is like, a big thing for them to anyone opening up their home to you. Like, it's vulnerable. They're showing you their bedroom. They're showing you their bathroom. They're showing you, personal spaces, and things that maybe their friends, like, I probably can count on one hand how many of my friends who I would say are good friends' homes I've walked through and been like in their bedrooms and bathrooms and upstairs and such. Like, it's just a very personal thing. Flipping the script on that a little bit, you might also encounter listings where you're walking through and things are not good. They have a major issue. They have a foundation issue. They have a structural issue. They are a hoarder. So in those situations, it's harder to be complimentary and positive and optimistic when there's just kind of a laundry list of things waiting for you to address. Recently I had a property that I walked through that was probably the worst home I've ever seen. Like, unsanitary, unsafe for this woman who was living there to be there. So kind of the finishing dialogue with that was, hey, I'm concerned about your safety here, and your health and your overall well-being. I want to find a way for you to get out of this situation and walk away with as much, resources as you can to move on to your next steps. So she was going to live with her daughter and wanted to have some sort of profit. And, you kind of have to show compassion in whatever way you can, wearing many hats, so to speak. Like, read the room. What's the scenario? What can I say here to be, as understanding about whatever the situation is that's going on? So, anybody have a listing walkthrough situation they want to talk about or share, or a problem, an uncomfortable conversation, or something that went really well? Okay, we'll move on. Following up your listing walkthroughs with an acknowledgement of some sort. It's a handwritten thank you, is always suggested. I will usually take a small gift to a listing appointment. I'm trying to think. The last one I did, it was like a little note like, thanks for letting me come over today, and it had like a Bath and Body Works soap and a couple of chocolates, like something homey and friendly and casual that maybe everyone will enjoy, or somebody in the house will enjoy. So I'm sorry if you can hear my cat. She is old and very annoying, right behind me. So getting the listing agreement signed, like I said and showed you, I have that in my pre-listing packet. So, at that point I'm saying, hey, did you get a chance to look at that? Here's where you're talking about commissions. Here's where you're asking them, do you have any surveillance on the property, like Ring cameras or doorbells? and talk a little bit about that. And you can't listen to any audio on those things when the house is being listed or people are walking through it. Do you have any things that are attached that are fixtures that someone might assume are going to stay with the house that aren't going to stay with the house? This is one of my lessons learned situations, because I had a situation a handful of years ago about curtains, and the seller thought she could take all the curtains, and the buyer's purchase agreement said window treatments. So they assumed all the curtains would stay. So, it got into a nitty gritty about curtains. So I'll always use curtains as the example, and I kind of will suggest, if there's something really special in this house to you that a buyer might see, want, or assume will stay, take it down, remove it, swap it out, change it, a light fixture, a mirror. Those are some examples of things that people have wanted to take with them. So, any questions, comments, thoughts about listing agreements? I mean, once you get in the door and have that relationship and are building, that rapport with a client, I feel like you just have to breeze through. I don't want to say breeze through, because you want to stop and pay attention where you need to, but I feel like you should be confident in that. I'm going to get this listing agreement. I'm going to work with these people. I'm building trust with them, and go into it assuming that there's no other competition, but know in the back of your head there could be competition. So how am I really going to seal the deal and make sure these people feel comfortable with me? We've connected on some level. They trust me. Those are always your goals. And if you can walk out of that original appointment with a listing agreement signed, even if the dates are TBD, or even if you say, hey, let's plan on this day, but if we need to adjust it, we can. That is your ultimate goal, is walking out with that listing agreement signed. Then maybe there is competition, but I no longer have it because I got this agreement signed and I win. So those are some of the key points of that. Anyone have comments of the actual listing appointment?
I just have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
You just mentioned earlier that when you walk in somebody's house, you have to be, very nice. You have to watch what you're saying, which
Yeah.
I totally agree. Because I had an experience like that. Somebody walked into my house to do some work, and I did not let them do it because of their negative comments. So I let them go. So I totally agree with you on that. But my question is, if you see anything that needs to be taken care of before you put the house for sale, how do you bring it up to the seller in a way that you don't hurt their feelings, and you just point it out? You just want to point out what's going on in the house that needs to be taken care of before you put it up for sale.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say that that's very situationally specific. Do you have a specific thought of something?
Yeah, I would say, because we all see those houses on MLS, those with they take pictures of dark rooms, and sometimes they have a clutters of old clothes in the corner, or paint, weird colors of paint that you would know nobody would wanna just buy a house with those with colors like that. Stuff like that, maybe cosmetic, or
Yeah.
or so many things. I can't name all of them, but it so many
Yeah, no.
oh my God, this can't be, this is not gonna sell like that.
Yeah,
go back in your mind.
okay, I get it. So one thing, and I want to kind of, maybe Kelly can jump in with the details of this, but one thing that I think is helpful is Keller Williams, our office is bringing back, I want to say it's in the spring, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, the property staging designation training. Is Kelly still here? Yes, no?
Yes,
My
I
question for you, my
I'm
question,
not
Sarah,
sure.
is the way you put it up, and
Yeah.
you don't hurt their feelings, because
Yeah.
I truly like to get my point across in a very nice, respectful way, especially if it comes to people's houses, which is
Right. So what I was going to say to that note is I think that the office is bringing back this training that's for property staging, a designation. I think it was a day-long thing. Um, I did that a couple years ago, and I took away some tools from it. So say we're going back to your example of like this, the room is kind of cluttered or junk or furniture or whatever. I might say, hey, you know what? This is a great space. I think it would be, show much better if we got rid of some of these unnecessary pieces or if it's a bedroom set up like a living room or something, like maybe we make this room look like it's an actual intended purpose. Properties, you live in your home, right? Your home is expected to be 75 or 70% occupied and 30% vacant. But actually, when you're selling your home, you want it to appear that it's 30% 30% occupied and 70% vacant. So, again, throwing in kind of numbers and knowledge and statistics from stuff like that. So I might say, hey, I have a connection for a junk removal service if you're planning to get rid of these things. Or what about getting a storage unit? I know a moving company that does mobile storage pods, and they'll drop it off right in your driveway, and we can, coordinate loading things up. I just want your house to show its best. And I think that this is the way to do it. I mean, you have to speak to it from confidence and from having solutions and suggestions. I think if you just go in and say, oh, you should paint this room, that leaves a lot of questions. What color should I paint the room? How do I know if it's the right color? Having those suggestions, but met with action steps. So I know that it's hard to find the language to not insult somebody, to not offend somebody. But I think if you're offering it as a, hey, this is what we need to do to market your house, to sell it better, to get you more money. I think this would be helpful. Here's what I would suggest. Can I help you somehow? Like, those are all the tools that I would say, take it and read the room too, because you might say that to somebody and they might seem very overwhelmed. So take a step back and like revisit that maybe later. Like, you just kind of really have to work that relationship, the conversation, get a feel for the person. And are they open to these ideas, or are they really not open to these ideas? And if they're not, how do we still make this work and get that dark room looking brighter? I think ultimately your ability to solve those problems and come up with solutions are just what they're looking for, rather than you're telling me something's wrong and I don't know how to fix it. I hope that helps.
That's the stat that stuck with me from that staging class too.
Yeah.
70-30 that you mentioned, 70% being full, 30% empty, and then flipping it when you go to actually stage a home so it feels light, bright, airy. And then I often say too, like, are you open to things like adjusting paint colors? Like, universally, these are the types of colors that are most palatable to the highest number of clients. And that's what our goal is to make your home as desirable as it can be to the highest number of people. And you're right.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're like, I love this yellow. And you're like, okay, great. Well, what we also need to do is make sure that all of the lights are the same warmth, like make sure every light bulb has the same shade of light in it or whatever. And so sometimes you can pivot. Sometimes that is a funny conversation to have. Oh, look, March 16th.
March 16th, property staging class, more to come. Yeah.
More to come.
Jamie and I went to this. I want to say there was maybe like 30 agents from our office that went that day, maybe more, 50. I don't know.
It was great.
It was really great. There was a lot of helpful resources and tools that I still use and practice when I'm going through. Like, vacant houses are the easiest to stage. And now I have just kind of a little inventory of some fake plants, because every room should have an element of green in it, and white towels to hang on the towel bars. If it just warms things up a little bit. But Jamie and I, a couple years ago, she had a listing, and we knew you were getting the listing, I think. And she's like, can you come over? And I was like, sure. Didn't really know what to expect, but we ended up like reorganizing this person's whole house and moving furniture from room to room and like lifting couches. And I think you said when your client, it was just the wife there. And when their family came home, they were like, why haven't we lived like this the whole time we've been here? Like,
It's a nice, if you have a friend who's gone through this class with you too, it's a nice, like, good cop, bad cop, so that I could be the listing agent in that scenario and then present Sarah as the stager. So that when I could, then I didn't have to have some of those hard conversations
I
about
was the bad cop. Yeah.
how awkwardly their furniture was placed.
Yeah. I didn't need to walk away with them liking me because Jamie was the realtor. So I could, totally be the bad cop in that situation. But no, I think it all, like that situation, I think it all went great. And they ended up selling their house really, really quickly, right? We said, hey, get this room painted, make it lighter and brighter. And, they were receptive to all the things we did, and it paid off for them in the long run. So yeah, go to that class if you can. It's a good one, especially if you just are interested in general in like home decor type things. So
I sold our house before, and I did all the changes that I need to, and it worked out because I did the painting and everything. The thing that I just want to check, because the way ask somebody to do things is, I like the way actually you guys did bad cop, good cop. That's a very smart idea. I like that a lot. I might use it in the future. But it's just like, I would like to get to them in a way that doesn't like hurt their feelings. That's what
yeah.
I was talking about. But I mean, changing things in the house is just like something I would love always to do, even in my own house.
Mm-hmm.
The colors and stuff.
Trends change so
Oh
quickly.
yeah.
Like I just replaced in my house TV stand and a coffee table that were like more farmhouse, and now they're like more mid-century modern because that's kind of what's trending now. Like obviously you don't expect
Yeah.
someone to go in and change their furniture, but there are also like staging companies who, if you have a vacant house and you think like, oh wow, if we got furniture in this room because it's so massive, or because there's so many rooms, or because of X, Y, or Z, like it would show so much better. And it's true. So like lean into those resources. I'm sure there are people in the office who have or use property stagers. We just used one on our team, and I think the agent was satisfied with it who used them. So, I think if there's anything I want you to take away from just chatting here is always, have solutions available for your clients.
Mhm.
Even if you don't know right now, this very minute, acknowledge, okay, I get that. That's an issue. I want to work through it with you.
I
Let me
look
get
it up.
resources, something like
Yeah,
that.
of course. Yeah. I look it up and always like I have a solution ready and set. I totally agree on that. Because people want you there for just to give solutions, and that's what they're
Mhm.
looking for in you.
Yeah, absolutely. So quick, almost finished here. Anyone have an aha to share? Any actions you're going to take moving forward? Any tools or resources you think you need in your business after just kind of thinking over some of the things that were brought up today, or anything meaningful, anything new mindsets or ideas? I'd love for someone to share something.
Hi there, it's Maria.
Hi,
Um,
Maria.
hi. I'm kind of big on gifts, and I have never done the just a little uh listing appointment gift. So I think I might do something like that, like a couple of muffins or
Yeah,
uh
$5. I mean, it's not anything big. And if you look, keep an eye out for like after Christmas sales for little like hand soaps or lotions or trinkets or
yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, you can put together a quick little bag and be like, thanks for letting me come today. I did calendar magnets for the end of the year and like start of January listing appointments too.
Well, I
For
have those. I do have calendars
yeah,
anyway that I give out anyhow. But I mean, I think
when
maybe
you're
one
listing,
time I actually did do that. It was someone that I knew, and I got, for the list appointment, and it was like the day before Valentine's Day or something like that. So I know I brought like chocolates that time, like little heart chocolates or something, like just a handful of them. So I did do that one time, but I have never done that on a consistent basis. So I think I might incorporate that.
Yeah, I did one in December, and I think it was like a Christmas soap and like some sort of chocolates, because I'll buy the bags at Costco of like either the skinny cups, the peanut butter ones, or like the coconut ones, and I'll put like 3 or 4 in there. And it was a mom, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is my favorite scent. How did you know?" And I love whatever kind of chocolates or whatever I gave her. She's like, "I love those so much. I don't know how you knew, but this is my saving grace today because I had such a hard morning with my baby," and blah blah blah. So I like, little things mean a lot to people sometimes.
How do you present it? Do you put it like in like a little baggie or something?
Yeah, I've got a little bag, and I'll put whatever I have in there, tie it up, and then I found these little like house. They're not like keychains, but they're like these little houses on a hook, and I'll tie it around the twine, so it's like, or
Perfect.
like I have some that are little keys, so I'll interchange those sometimes, like keys or houses, and
Yeah.
I even have like paper clips that are houses and keys, like just, a little extra touch to make
Yeah.
people remember things about you.
Yeah.
Um, and then too, the other thing I do gift wise is anyone who referred me business in a calendar year, I'll give them something at the end of the year. So not just at listing appointments, but like, "Hey, you sent me John this year and I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for sending him to me," and it's like I cater it to their family or lifestyle. Like families with kids, I've done like movie gift cards and little popcorn bundle or something, just kind of, "Thank
I
you,
do.
I'm thinking of you, I know what you like."
Yeah, I do referral gifts. I usually do them when the sale closes, and
Mm,
I'll send something to the referral.
yeah.
Usually like a gift card to a restaurant.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, Last thing I'm going to touch on is really quickly Keller model of daily success systems. So here's a chart of conversations you should be having each day, contacts you should be adding to command each day, handwritten notes each day, um, other things. So I want to kind of focus a little bit on this 10-5-1 social media engagement, because I look at that and think, that seems kind of overwhelming. And also, I know that every training I'm in, there's a handful of people in the room who just say, like, "I suck at social media. Like, I can't do it. I can't keep up with it. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's meaningful." So a little bit about this 10-5-1 social media engagement model is what you should be doing every day on social media. 10 meaningful interactions. That's a comment, a question, some words of encouragement on a post somebody has made in your friend network. 5 direct connections, whether it's a message, a comment on a story, so that goes directly to the poster, a text, a voice message, and 1 value post. And this is just a general framework. I know there's a good amount of people who don't want to post every day or engage every day, and it's protective of your mental health, and that's totally fine too. But something that provides value, a market statistic, local events, home tours, community spotlights, anything relatable to people in your network or sphere. So just yesterday, I did a post, and I schedule mine. So like I might sit down for the week and schedule a whole bunch of posts. So this is what I posted yesterday. It's a really nice photo of me in a fake AI setting outside. And just like winter fun in Northeast Ohio, because my target audience is people and families with kids who might want to be going out and doing something. So there's a whole caption here on, snow tubing and pricing and glow tubing, and Chat GPT is a really great friend. The home and garden show is this weekend at the IX Center. So, it's not just about social media and "I just sold this house and congratulations to me." It's about other things and other value that you can provide to people. I don't know if my screen is still sharing or not, but let me get back to that. Okay. So that's just, okay, I guess that was the end, but that's just kind of the model for the social media aspect of it. And if we had more time, I would talk about social media a little bit. But if anyone wants to stick around and has any more questions about that or struggles with that, I'm happy to answer those questions too. So any last minute ahas or comments, questions? All right. Well, happy Friday, everybody. Thanks for coming in.